Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be covering a setting. This is a setting that I read and fell in love with. It's very, very small, and it's for the Fate system, but you can use this setting for literally any kind of game you want. So if you don't play Fate, don't stick around for this one because you'll enjoy it. So the setting is called the Aether Sea. Let me jump across here. And it's by Edward Turner. And it's almost, the way I would describe it when you read through it is, it feels, well, it felt to me like Spelljammer and Firefly kind of had a baby. And that's a pretty amazing combination. And that was the vibe that I got from reading it, although I don't know whether that was the vibe intended. And as soon as I read it, I really want to run this. And I'm going to run a small little arc in this coming up. So you get stuff when you read it, it just makes you want to run it. And this is absolutely that. So let me jump down here. Okay, so basically it sets the scene. And this is one of the things I really like about this is it gives you enough to run and have ideas with, but it doesn't overload you with lore. And it means that I think anybody who ran this would have a different setting to anybody else who ran it, because I think you'd create an awful lot of the table. But it goes through a little bit back into history. Everybody was on Homeworld, and everybody was fighting. It was a terrible place. There was magical wars. Food and drink was becoming really, really scarce. And then one day a human by the name of Albus Fletcher did the thing that humans are good at. He talked to people. He met with a couple of clever elves who became hot shots in academia, pulled a dwarven artisan in. Basically, he got a group of people together, and between them they made this thing called an Aether ship, which let you escape the atmosphere of Earth. But what Albus did really well was, although he was also very good at talking to people, he managed to get all the patents in his name. So these Aether ships were made, and everybody headed out into the to the Aether Sea, and basically every planet that's occupied is occupied by a descendant of Homeworld. They haven't found anything new out there, but that doesn't mean that there isn't new things out there, and it doesn't mean that new things haven't come from Homeworld. So basically Homeworld is wrecked. It's in the center of this thing, and everybody's just spread out between across the place now. There's the royal hegemony, which is the center, kind of all the royalty from Earth kind of like took over these planets, and it's more almost like a loose government type thing. Like the closer you are towards the middle, the more tight it is, and they seem to control everything. And they don't pay taxes, the royal family, which is a big issue for a lot of people. And then kind of as you get further out, it's more the wilds, and that's where it really feels. And I don't know whether it's the language that's in it, really feels kind of Firefly-esque to me, but just with dwarves and kind of like elves and trolls, which is cool. So there's also the Spellcasters Union. So these are at the center of every spellcaster or every Spellcaster Union station. There's a statue to Albus Fletcher, and they control magic severely. There's different types of magic in this, and again, you can adapt it to whatever game you're playing. But they really, really heavily control magic in this, so it gives them an awful lot of power. And in particular, what they control is the ability to fly in space, or sail in the Aether Sea, I should say. So it has organizations of magic users within Royal Space, but also it's the only real way to legally practice magic, although magic is available to everyone in this. The other thing about the setting is it's bureaucratic, so it kind of reminds me almost like the Vogons. That like if you have a ship, your ship must be registered with the Royal Shipping Registry, and that name must comply with the Royal Naming Statute. And the cargo gets registered with the Royal Trade Commission, and your routes are covered by the Board of the Aether Travel. And I think all of this stuff kind of like puts in place why it feels Firefly to me, because the further you get out, the more you are away from the restrictions of the core worlds, which is cool. So again, I'm not going to focus on a lot of the Fate stuff, but the Fate stuff in here is so good. And again, from the angle of if you're running other games, you'll learn an awful lot from the idea of aspects and how to use them and how they could make your game better. But it gives you kind of like help on how creating characters. And what I really like about the races in this is that it's not that they're better at stuff, they're just not as crap at certain things, which is really, really cool. So when you basically roll your favorite approach, treat any of the final results of poor or below as mediocre. So, and again, this is a mechanic you could pull across to any system, but it is just like there's going to be certain things you're not going to be as bad at as other people, not you're going to be way better at other people. And I kind of like that more. That's a better vibe for me. So it gives information about all the different races in here. I like the artwork. And each of them have got really kind of distinct characteristics based on kind of like what happened on Homeworld. The goblins are kind of like work for a lot of people, and they have this good ability to kind of blend into the background, but they have this shadow fleet that everybody's frightened of because nobody knows where it is, and they've got dirt on most people. They've got the dwarves. So Homeworld, nobody lives there. Well, everybody left Homeworld because it's destroyed, but the person who lives there, or the people that live there, are still dwarves. And the Stone King is a genuine insane tyrant. And the dwarves in the Homeworld are trying to build an engine so they can turn Homeworld into an actual ship. So people keep away from that. He shoots down stuff, even though it's the middle of the royal space. It's not technically part of it because nobody goes to Homeworld. And this is one of the things I really like about it. There's so much flavour thrown into the races and the history and things that you can play off that make this a setting that I really, really am looking forward to running. Things like the elves. Homeworld was believed to be kind of like a mother goddess that blessed them with the art to do magic, but now the place has been destroyed, so they're having second thoughts. And they're going around trying to find these areas of wonder to kind of recreate this almost awe of nature, even though nature's let them down, or they let nature down. Trolls were considered stupid on Earth, but the reason that was because they didn't have written traditions. They have the really, really learned, but over time their kind of bards were killed or enslaved or driven out, so a lot of the culture got lost. And there's these trollish law masters that travel around learning law, and there's this big thing for them is to gather up this law again. And it gains so much cool flavour in among these for players to build on. There's a magic system here for Fate. I'm not going to go a huge amount into the magic system because I want to make this kind of a video for everybody, not just Fate players. The magic system I really, really like because it leans into the idea that it's a certain type of spellcasting that are controlled by the Spellcasters Union, which is good. But also it also makes magic very, very available for almost every player as well, which I do really, really like. And it has a few different schools of magic which are cool and how to use them, and a way that things can go wrong, which is good. And it's the nice thing about Fate is that you've got this kind of like back and forth between the GM and the players, where you're telling a story. It's not necessarily one trying to beat the other. Then you have the Aether ships. So again, it feels this vibe of Firefly that I love. Your players are creating their own Aether ship, and that will be done as part of your sessions. And it becomes a home, and having this home that they need to keep in the air is a really cool way to keep a campaign going. And like running an Aether ship, there's a cost involved around it. So you have resources which you have to use. So in order to keep it in the sea, you need to keep on these resources, and it gives you a way in which to kind of like to measure resources for traveling. I'm going to use something slightly different because I built a map. I built this, which I think is really cool using HexKit. HexKit space kit is amazing. But I built this map with it, and it's got the royal space in the middle, and I'm going to be using hexes and kind of like roots and stuff like that to make things a little bit different. But yeah, it's super, super cool. The HexKit space pack makes really, really beautiful maps. I might actually have to do a video on that as well. So it gives you ideas about kind of like these ships and how to build them, how resources, and having this as something that ticks down and they have to take jobs to keep in the air I really love the idea of that. The other thing I really like is players within this game, they have certain aspects of their character that reflect in the ship. The ship takes on the player's aspects, so it becomes even more of a home base for them, which is just a beautiful way of doing things. And this thing finishes with this adventure. The adventure is really, really cool. It's the one I'm going to run when we run it initially. And throughout this adventure, it helps paint more of a picture of this setting. Overall, I just think for me, this is It's such a cool setting. And it gives you just enough for you to pick up and want to run with and run a short campaign in it and see what happens. So I'm really looking forward to doing this or to running this. And I just thought I'd share it because these things that, like, a lot of them, people, there's no real eyeballs being put on them, and I think it's really important. So yeah, cool. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you haven't subbed, please do, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.